a meditation. I'm going to show you how to make these little creatures that are like something coming out of the sea. It's basically a cone shape. And the point about why I make them, I've made hundreds of them, thousands of them maybe, is that you only use your hands, a bar of soap and some water, a bowl of warm water, and I've got a towel. And I just make sure that my work surface is dry to start with. And I am using 3 different British wools, Manx Lockton. The brown, the dark is a dark one. It could be Black Welsh Mountain, I'm not quite sure. And this is Blue-faced Leicester. And that's so that you can see the different layers. So the fibres are quite long, the individual fibres are quite long, and you need to have your hands relatively far apart and just pull off a tuft of wool. I'm starting with the black so that you can see it on here, and I want a couple of tufts to create a square.
So it's quite thin.
It's quite thin, yes, and there's a rough square. Obviously there are straggly bits here. That's, if you imagine that's a square. The second layer I'm going to do in white so you can see it more easily against the contrast of it. So a tuft of wool, and it's going crosswise. So the first layer is going that way, the second layer's at right angles. And so it's not quite a square. I'm just going to fill in this little area here with another tuft that is slightly overlapping, and I'm still got a kind of a square here. And you might get away with just 2 layers. Don't know if you can see that. That's quite thick. There's no major gaps there. But you might want to do a 3rd layer just to fill in. So I'm going to do it in this 3rd colour. I'm just going to put a few fibres, again, at right angles to the previous layer. Quite nice decoratively, I guess. So just a very, very fine layer there. So now I get the bowl of water and just dribble about a tablespoon or less, dessert spoonful of water on the top, and then I'm going to wet my hands and put some soap on my hands, and that breaks the surface tension of the water and helps the water to penetrate into the fibres, and you sort of just press down hard, and if it's puffy like that you just need to add a bit more water, maybe another little rub of soap, and just keep pressing down until the whole thing is flat. And you've still got a roughly square shape like that. So there's no puffiness, it's completely flat. And then I fold in 2 adjacent edges. So if we imagine that this is the square, there's an edge here and an edge here. And I'm going to fold those in. So if I just put that one there and pick up a few little strands, very delicate, and just fold them in and mould them in a little bit like that, and the same on this side. So you've got a nice crisp shape like that. And this point here is that point there. And
so it's the outside of the cone.
That's the outside, and this is going to be the inside. So now I've got 2 fingers here, and I'm just going to wrap this around my fingers and fold it around. This side is going to come back, but what you don't want is for that to fold that back on itself. So make sure you tuck this around.
So you're making
your
sort
fingers.
of a point at the
Yeah,
near
this
the
is
tips of your fingers.
That's right. This is the beginning of the cone, and making it into a little. Eventually, that will be a little sort of rat's tail there. Then you pick up the other edge, the unfolded edge, and wrap that back over here. This is where it's quite nice doing different layers because you get those fibres showing through.
Oh yeah, that's beautiful.
And then just paste it down. And then the felting begins. So I love doing this to show people how wool reacts to friction and a little bit of moisture and a little bit of soap. So the soap helps to break the surface tension of the water so that it penetrates into the fibres, but it also allows you to do this without any plastic or other intervention, so that it runs over, your fingers run over the fibres. Just caught a little bit there. So this wool is not yet felted, but it will be quite soon, with a little bit of just rubbing all the way around with your fingers inside so that it's not closing in. If you need a little bit more soap, then add a little bit more, but if you get it too soapy, that will slow down the process of felting, so you need a little bit of friction.
So if it does get too soapy, what could I
If
do?
it gets too soapy, just put your whole hand in there and squeeze a bit off.
Okay.
Actually mine isn't, but so I'm going to add a little bit more, but that was just to show you that it won't fall apart if you do that. So you just dip it into the water and squeeze out some of the excess soap if it's too much. So these little polyps, I call them polyps because it's a natural form, this sort of cone shape. It's like a foxglove as well shape, natural shape. They take about 4 to 5 minutes to make, really quite quick. You can see already the wool is finding its shape, and I'm teaching it. I'm teaching it to be this shape. And
Did you say 4 to 5 minutes
4
or 45?
4 to 5 4 to 5
Yeah.
minutes to make. It's very quick. I used to make them a few every morning when I came into my workshop as a kind of a little meditation, I guess. You know, like Japanese potters might. I know some Japanese potters who do that when they go into their workshops in the morning. They'll just make some throwaway pots.
Okay.
Because it's a process and it's a way of getting your mind into, I don't know, being with the fibre, being at peace. It's a therapy. So just keep rubbing this. You can. I've taken my fingers out now because I know that the wool has come to a state where it's beginning to understand. Oh yeah, she's trying to make me into this shape. Yeah, I get it. It's a little conversation between me and the fibres. But if you take your hands out and start doing it flat, it speeds it up, but also you then get a seam. And so I'm trying to make it without seams. So then you have to, every few seconds, really half a minute or something like that, open it out and fold it in a different way so that you're not forming seams, you know, flat edges, so that it stays a cone shape. So just keep turning it around, and it's beginning to be felted.
You've got quite a lot of soap on it.
I have
now,
got a lot
haven't you?
of soap on this part of it, and now I'm going to train the tail, and that's too soapy, so I'm going to open this out again. Just make sure I've got a cone in this part of it, and then I'm going to dip this end in the water to get rid of some of the soap, because because what I'm going to do, this is the splashy bit, is that tail I'm going to roll between my hands, and I want it to turn around. You see, like that? I want it to swing around in my hand so that I can form the tail. So this end is open and hollow. That end is a tail. It's solid. And if it's got too much soap, then it won't roll in my hand. It won't roll in my hand. Yeah. So it's really, really quite quick. So that's kind of felting. There's few loose fibres. But I can feel it's solid. It's changed in my hands. It's a bit hairy because that particular wool is a bit hairy, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. And now I'm going to go back to felting that main part. And the other thing about this little form is that you can scale it right down, wear them as earrings, or scale it up. And actually, when you scale it up, you've got a little bag.
Oh,
I've made these into shrouds sometimes for little tiny birds. But also you could make a nice bag for yourself. It's nice to start small and just keep it handheld. And it's lovely. And after a while you feel, oh yeah, this is now felt. It's not just wool that's going to fall apart, you know. I've trained it, and there it is. So the final thing is you could actually, it's a little bit hairy, but that's partly that black wool. You can just full it, which is scrunching it up and really, you know, once it's felt, that will really, really strengthen it. So for instance, if you are making a little bag, that is bigger than this one obviously, you need to make it strong. And the more that you do that, the stronger it will become, and it shrinks. So that shrunk quite a lot. Yeah, it shrunk quite a lot. You can stretch it out a bit, but that's now much more solid. Much more solid. It could be much more solid than that too. This is really, you know, still quite malleable.
So you can sort of take it as far as you like.
As far as you like, yeah. But I do think that's a beautiful form. And now rinse it. So you put it in the water, get all the soap out. Squeeze out the water. Put it in a towel. Squeeze and stretch it out.
Et voila.
Et voila. And meditation. And I love the way they just sort of fold. They look like something from the sea or from a plant.
And they're all a little bit different.
Yeah.
Thank you.